Hello and welcome to the Farming Week, the podcast from Agriland that keeps you up to date with all the latest in Irish agriculture. I'm Charles O'Donnell and I'm joined by Agriland journalist Aisling O'Brien. Well, we're a week on from Budget 2025, and this week Finance Bill 2024, which provides the legal basis to all those measures announced in the budget, has been published by the government. The bill provides some clarity on measures that affect the farming community, including the extension of the active farmer test for agricultural relief to persons providing a gift or inheritance, which has proven controversial since it was announced last week. If you want to read about that and all the detail on Finance Bill 2024 as it affects farmers, you can check out the article on Agriland.ie and the Agriland app. And it's budgetary matters where we start today, specifically comments from Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Charlie McConalogue, in relation to possible future funding for rearing calves. Aisling, can you explain a bit of the background on this and what exactly has the Minister said?
Yes, Charles. So I suppose, as you'd say, the horse trading after Budget 2025 was announced is continuing into this week, unsurprisingly, with many farming organisations looking to Charlie McConalogue as to how he's going to allocate that Department of Agriculture budget for the coming 12 months. So a little bit of background when it comes to calf rearing. So back in 2023, farmers who reared calves were eligible for a €20 per calf payment up to a maximum of 50 calves when they met the criteria of the National Dairy Beef Welfare Scheme. However, this year that payment was not available to farmers who reared calves and was instead available to dairy farmers producing calves. I suppose the whole idea of that was to increase the merit, the genetic merit, and for farmers, dairy farmers in particular, to produce higher genetic beef merit calves. So essentially, since that move came in, Charles, this year, farming organisations have been looking for those who rear calves to be included in this. And it seems that the minister may be open to looking at this again for 2025, because Agriland did put it to Minister Charlie McConalogue. He was speaking at a Meat Industry Ireland event, which we'll be coming back to a little bit later in the podcast. And he said he's very open to the proposal for a €40 a head calf rearing payment for farmers who rear calves from the dairy herd destined for beef production. And Agriland asked the minister if farmers could see support payments returned to those who are actually rearing the calves. And he said he was very open to that. The budget is about securing the funding, and that's the key focus at budget time. And he said he was glad to be able to double the money under the National Dairy Beef Welfare Scheme to €40 per eligible calf. So it's a matter now, Charles, to see how that will be broken down over the coming 12 months. Now, he said he doesn't have any predetermined view in how the rollout of the funding would be decided, and he is going to engage with farm representatives on this matter. So we'll have to see how this progresses, but it will be very interesting. It is something that the sector has been calling for those who rear the calves to be rewarded and incentivised mostly to do so.
Yeah, we'll certainly have to keep an eye on that, Aisling. And staying on the issue of calf rearing and the costs involved in that, new data from Teagasc this week revealed the net margin on dairy calf to beef farms in Ireland in 2023. What did we learn from those figures?
Yes, so this came from the Teagasc National Farm Survey, and it's a series of fact sheets that Teagasc have produced. And for the first time, they've produced a fact sheet on the dairy calf to beef systems. And it's all, of course, going back to that 10-point action plan, which was launched back in March to support dairy calf to beef systems in this country. Now, as I said, fact sheets have been published for a range of farm enterprises. And it is interesting because we do get a look behind or under the bonnet, I suppose, of the dairy calf to beef systems. And Teagasc said the information aims to provide insights into the financial and technical performance of these enterprises on farms across the country. So what did we learn? Well, the fact sheet shows that last year, the average dairy calf to beef enterprise achieved a gross margin, that's of course the margin before deductions, of €884 per hectare. Now, the average dairy calf to beef farm made a net margin of just over €65 an acre or €162 a hectare in 2023, according to that data. Now, just by way of comparison, in 2022, the average net margin on these farms was just over €16 an acre or €40 a hectare, according to the data. So that shows that there has been an improvement there in the net margin. And looking at the top 1/3 of performing farms in this data, they achieved a gross margin of just under €1,500 a hectare and a net margin of almost €650 a hectare. So some very interesting data. It's drawn from 47 farms, and we've plenty of tables and a lot more information on our website and app. Those tables are broken down by the top, middle and bottom performing farms, and they include concentrate, pasture forage and other costs, of course, that would be part of any farm system as well, Charles. And Teagasc said by including both the gross and the net margins, the fact sheet provides a clear picture of the economic performance of this enterprise. And there are fact sheets, of course, on dairy, sheep, cereals and other suckler systems as well. And it will be interesting to see, I suppose, if this increases the interest in the dairy calf to beef systems. I know there is an awful lot of interest from farmers out there, but when you see the figures in black and white, Charles, in terms of how these enterprises are performing financially, it makes for some very interesting reading. As I said, a lot more detail on that on Agriland.
Well, we're going to stay on dairy calves for our next topic. Many listeners would have seen the RT Investigates documentary on primetime this week, which showed footage of young bull calves being inhumanely and often violently treated at an export facility in County Kerry. The documentary appeared to show calves being repeatedly struck in the face, force-fed, jabbed with tools and dragged by the ears and tails. The RTE report also featured footage of the condition of calves after being exported across Romania and onwards to Israel. Well, Aisling, there's been some reaction to this from the agriculture and farming sector, most of it coming after the report aired, although to be fair to the Irish Creamery Milk Suppliers Association, their president, Dennis Drennan, accepted RTE's invite to take part in the documentary, and he reacted to the raw footage then and there as he was shown it. But between the ICMSA and the various other stakeholders, what has been the tone of the reaction to this report?
Well, I suppose, Charles, we'll start at the very top in terms of reactions, and that came from Minister for Agriculture, Charlie McConalogue. Now, we were told that the Minister was not available to take part in the RTE Investigates programme shown on Wednesday night, but he did give his reaction following its airing, and he said that the footage shown will be thoroughly reviewed. He said that the footage is not reflective of the high standards of animal welfare demonstrated across the country from farmers, processors and other workers along the supply chain. He said that any incidents of mistreatment are unacceptable, and he said it's his department's policy to investigate all allegations of illegal behaviour and to prepare files for prosecution where they are appropriate. Here's some of what he had to say to Agriland this week following the airing of that programme.
Well, we've seen some changes obviously in relation to the age of travel, and also some changes as well in relation to the early slaughtered calves, and that's been done in collaboration with industry as well. I think enforcement is something that we continue to make sure that we have appropriate checks and oversight right throughout the process within the country. Obviously, at the EU level, each member state will have responsibilities in relation to that. But likewise, in terms of anywhere we see a breach, anywhere where it's reported to it, following it up and taking it absolutely seriously, and where possible and where appropriate, pursuing criminal prosecutions as well.
So that is Minister for Agriculture Charlie McConalogue reacting to the RTE Investigates programme this week, Charles. Of course, it comes just over a year since the previous programme carried out by the RTE Investigates unit on the dairy sector as well. And that was referenced in that programme this week in terms of, you know, if we've had any developments or any prosecutions arising out of that. And we haven't to date, Charles. And that programme also made for pretty grim viewing. But I suppose you did mention the ICMSA President Dennis Drennan. He did feature on the programme, as you said, this week. He said that he was committed to defending the reputation and standards of Irish farmers and would never back off from that position. And he said that the ICMSA had a main message after the programme. He said if everybody did their jobs and applied themselves with the same commitment that farmers did on their farms, then there was absolutely nothing intrinsically wrong with calf exports. And he said that EU regulations governing the movement of calves have to be enforced and applied uniformly. So, I mean, I think that is very strong words from Dennis Drennan. As you said, he did take part in it. Now, the IFA didn't take part in the actual programme, Charles, but they had offered to take part in a live debate afterwards on RTE, but that didn't seemingly come to pass. Now, the IFA president, Francie Gorman, he did give a reaction after the programme was aired. And again, he said that the images shown were not representative of how Irish calves are treated. He said there has to be a zero tolerance approach for anyone who does not adhere to the highest standards. And he said the transport of animals is governed by stringent regulations. And he said live exports are carried out in line with those regulations. And it's extremely important that that happens for the entire sector. And he said that anyone with evidence of wrongdoing should make it available to the authorities. And he said having a functioning live animal trade provides competition in the market to help ensure that Irish farmers get a fair price. Now, the Irish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the ISPCA, also gave its reaction, said it was disappointed with the footage and said that the ongoings during live exports is damaging to the reputation of the Irish dairy sector. And they said that the UK back in May of this year actually introduced a ban on the live exports of animals, and they believe that Ireland should follow suit. And they said other measures are also possible, and they pointed to more widespread use of sex semen as well, which obviously would cut down on the number of bull calves born on Irish dairy farms as well. But a lot of reaction to that programme, Charles. And look, we'll have to see where the investigation goes in terms of both the Department of Agriculture and Gardaí on that.
Yeah, Aisling, hopefully something tangible can come out of those investigations. But we're going to move on now to agribusiness matters. And there's been further developments on the potential merger between Arabon and Tipporary CoOp. What's the latest on this, Aisling?
Yes, so listeners might remember last month, Charles, that Arabon and Tipporary CoOp had confirmed that they'd entered preliminary exclusive discussions regarding possible integration of their operations, including potential amalgamation. And a joint statement issued by both businesses to Agriland at that time said that the exclusive exploratory process had been undertaken by the neighbouring co-ops with a view to creating a stronger entity within the Irish dairy sector. And they said the milk pool of both would place a combined entity in the top 4 co-op processors in Ireland. So it would be a big change on the co-op landscape in this country. And this week we got news that Arrabawn Co-op has organised a series of information meetings for its shareholders over the next 2 weeks to discuss a possible merger with Tipporary Co-op. They've written to their shareholders to invite them to those meetings, adding that it welcomes the thoughts and the feedback of shareholders. And they also said that they would answer any questions which may arise as well. The chair of Arabon, Edward Carr, he's written to the shareholders. He's inviting them to any of the series of information meetings, which we have the details of on our website. They're in Tipperary, Cork, Carlow, Galway, Offaly. And so there is a lot of choice there for Arabon shareholders to hear what the co-op board have to say about this potential merger. Of course, Arabon itself saw a turnover of €403 million last year, which was down around 20% from the €505 million reported in 2022. And the co-op is headquartered in Nina in Tipperary, has around 1,000 farmer members. And Tipperary Co-op then, they had a turbulent and challenging year last year. They saw the value of their sales decrease by over €100 million, from 420 million to 304 million, a drop of around 25% for that co-op. So it will be very interesting, Charles. I think both of the co-ops are looking to the future and how they can strengthen both of their businesses. So it'll be very interesting to see the turnout and the engagement of farmer shareholders at those Arabon meetings. And as I said, if you want details of those, you can check them out on our website and app.
Well, our podcast today has been largely dairy dominated, and before we change lanes and talk about the beef sector, we'll just remind you that milk prices from dairy processors will start to be announced, if not today, Friday, then certainly early next week, so stay tuned to Agriland for those announcements. The Arnua PPI indicative price increased for last month, and the ICMSA is calling for 48 cent per litre, so we'll see if processor prices reflect those figures in the coming days. But as I said, we're going to move on to the beef side of the house. And a new sustainability charter has been published by Meat Industry Ireland that will introduce measures with the aim of enhancing the sustainability of beef production. What are the details on this, Aisling?
Yes, so the Charter for Sustainable Irish Beef, it's been signed up to by beef producing members of Meat Industry Ireland, which is the IBEX Sector Association representing primary beef, pork and lamb processing facilities in the country. So the following MII members have signed up to this charter: ABP Food Group, Ashburn Meat Processors, Dawn Meats, Eurofarm Foods, Foyle Food Group, Keypack, Liffey Meats and Moy Valley Meats. So the big players in the meat industry have all signed up to it, and the charter commits these processors to accelerate the decarbonisation of beef production and encourage best practice among their suppliers. And it also is requiring them to protect the natural environment and to deliver broad-based benefits for society while remaining profitable, maintaining livelihoods and enhancing food security, according to the statement from MII issued this week. Now, the charter was officially launched by Minister for Agriculture Charlie McConalogue, and it includes priority actions such as environmental stewardship, animal care, supply chain resilience, health and nutrition, and sustainability, and much more. Now, there is a huge list of priority actions outlined on our website and app, but just some of them, Charles, to highlight include the earlier slaughter age, which is something that we have spoken about here on the podcast as a method of reducing emissions from the Irish agriculture sector. The aim is to have an average slaughter age of 22 to 23 months by the end of this decade. The Charter also says that processors should work with suppliers to implement methane mitigating breeding strategies for cattle from both the beef and dairy herds, encourage suppliers to adopt management measures that reduce greenhouse gases and ammonia emissions, and support the reduction of carbon emissions at individual farm and animal level. Now, they also point to ongoing investment that is needed as well. And it is interesting to note that this sustainability progress report shows that MII members have invested almost €200 million in sustainability initiatives at processing and farm levels since 2015. And it also shows a reduction in absolute emissions from the beef sector of 4%, a 13% drop in the rolling 3-year average beef carbon footprint, and a lowering of the average finishing age for prime cattle to 25.8 months. That's a reduction of 0.6 months. So I suppose the Charter outlining the efforts that have been made, but to use a political term, Charles, a job of work to do, of course, for all of the agriculture sector, not just beef, but this roadmap, I suppose, committing processors across the country to how that will be achieved. And a lot more, as I said, on our website and app on details on that Charter for Sustainable Irish Beef.
Moving on, and following a fire at an agricultural business in County Kilkenny, a fundraising drive has taken place to support the impacted family. Aisling, what happened here and how have people responded?
Yes, Charles. So this devastating fire broke out on Friday night into the early hours of Saturday morning. It occurred on the premises of the Prendergast farm, which is located in Innisteague in County Kilkenny. And the fire has destroyed 2 family businesses located at the farm. Now, Dermot Prendergast is a local contractor. He's built up and provided services to local and neighbouring farmers for over 3 decades at this point. And his son, John Prendergast, had set up his own mechanic business adjacent to his father's on their family farm for about 2 or 3 years. And he's also been involved in the contracting enterprise. So this fire resulted in the loss and damage of machinery, tools and sheds for both businesses. A really devastating impact from the blaze, Charles. And emergency services in Gardaí rushed to the scene. And they brought it under control. I suppose the main thing, and thankfully there has been no injuries as a result of the fire, but there has been a huge financial cost and of course an emotional cost associated with this fire. And local people have not been found wanting at all because they have organised a GoFundMe page. And as of this morning, Friday morning, over €63,000 has now been raised by local people to help the Prendergast family get back up onto their feet an awful thing to happen to them, and we wish them all the very best for the coming months ahead as they try and rebuild their businesses there, and long established businesses, and obviously held in huge regard by the local community. And as I said, over €60,000 and more donations coming in, and a GoFundMe page obviously still progressing and taking more donations from local people who want to contribute to this worthy cause as well. So, Charles, a sad story, but it does show the human generosity and the human kindness, as always, from the farming sector who rally around people in need.
Well, we're just about to finish up for today, and that's because, Aisling, as soon as we're finished recording here, you have to hit the road to Mill Street, County Cork for the 2024 AXA National Dairy Show. So you're going to be flat to the mat for the next 2 days, I think.
Yeah, the Agriland team were all decamping to the Greenglens Arena, of course, the famous home of Eurovision, Charles, many, many years ago, for those who recall it. But it is, in farming circles, more known as the home of the AXA National Dairy Show. The 42nd show is taking place today, Friday. Doors open from 2 p.m. and they will remain open until 9:30 tonight. And also on Saturday, a longer day, 9:30 until 5:30. And there is just the top quality dairy stock from around the country taking part, Charles. Here we'll have heifers and milk, and mature cows all battling it out. We've got Holsteins and Jerseys, lovely young handling classes as well. Always great to see the young people out in the show ring and the pride that they take in their animals and preparing them. We were there yesterday watching them. You wouldn't see it in a top salon in Dublin city centre, the treatment that these animals get, Charles. They really do take huge pride, and we were delighted to meet Jason Helen and Edie Dorman Fame, of course, who won the Supreme Champion title last year. She's back, aiming to do the double, Charles. We'll have to see if she does catch the eye of the Danish judge who unfortunately couldn't make his appointment last year. He caught COVID, but this year he's back, and he's going to be putting them all through their paces in the Greenglens Arena. Of course, aside from the showing, there's loads to see. There's a huge dairy trade show, and there for the first time this year there's a calf village, and all speaking about calf welfare, health, and loads of information there for farmers on the ground. So definitely try and get along to the Greenglens Arena in Mill Street for the next 2 days. There'll be plenty to see. Dairy Innovation Awards as well, showcasing the innovation of agri-businesses, the length and breadth of the country as well, and lots to see, and a great social occasion as well to round off the showing season for the year, Charles. So we're really looking forward to it in the Agriland team. And stay tuned to Agriland for the next few days. If you can't make it, we'll have all the latest from the show ring, from the show results. We have a live stream from the show ring as well, and everything else that you need to know from the Greenglens. So I hope you'll enjoy the coverage.
Thanks, Aisling. That's where we'll leave it so for today. If you want more detail on any of today's stories, you can check them out on Agriland.ie and the Agriland app. Please don't forget to rate, review and follow The Farming Week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love if you could spare some time to give us 5 stars and share The Farming Week with anyone you think might be interested. From Aisling and myself, take care.